Hey, quick pre-roll shout out to OnWeCaster, the open source platform we use to record our podcast episodes with guests. They support open source charity programs like Innovate for Vegas Foundation by offering their platform for free, and for that we thank them. Visit ecaster.com, that's ECASTR.com, for more information and to try them out. Now, on with the show. Welcome to Let's Innovate for Vegas, episode 12. Today it is 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning on May 11th. And I'm very happy and honored even to have as my guest today a Renaissance woman in the 21st century, as it says on her website. And I couldn't agree more. I give you art by physicist, Dr. Kitty Yeung. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Dan. Good to be here.
Hi there. I agree. It is good to meet me. I'm sorry. That's my usual. They're just jokes. So I've asked, and I'm happy to have my guest today on to talk about a couple of things that we'll get to. But first, before we get to any of that, I would like to know my usual question: who is Kitty Yeung? Dr. Kitty Yeung, and I will not say that too often, but I do want to respect the education. We'll get to that. Education is very important. And I'm fascinated by your background, and I hope everyone listening will be as well. So start with Harvard maybe, or do you want to start before? There's a lot of stuff.
Well, I would just say I'm a physicist. I'm professionally trained in science, and I also do art. So that's me, a combination of STEAM. We're going to talk about STEAM, and I will tell you the context that it came up recently as well. But so a couple of things that are on there, and trust me, there's a method to my madness. It will sound like I'm wandering around these topics, but so among your research projects, photonics, plasmonics, quantum, these sound very they are interesting and fairly advanced. The casual listener may be thinking, this is too nerdy for me. And the reason I just want you to describe those a little bit, because I think it is absolutely fascinating that you are, I'm going to guess you're applying some of these or all of these things to wearables and fashion and things that people might not connect with quantum mechanics, I don't know if you do mechanics, but quantum. I would guess that many people would say, how does this all fit together? And I think it will be an interesting, whether it's interesting at this moment or by the end of the show, I think it will be very interesting to see how this all comes together. So how does that come together? Well, yeah, I actually have been having kind of a dual career path because I love both science and art, and it's not very normal to have like a defined career path to pursue both. So you kind of have to forge your own way. So I really find the two shouldn't be separated, and they are really inspiring me from both sides. So both art and science are doing things people never done before, is pushing the boundary to learn things, to explore unknowns, and they then inspire more practical fields like engineering and design, which is what I do in industry, is to apply all these new things that we create and discover in order to build things that people need. So I actually often have kind of a multi-role that is a spectrum or a slider. I go between being a scientist and an artist and a designer and an engineer in between. So I have built a fashion brand that does tech fashion called Art by Physicist. And I also publish a comics book explaining quantum computing. And now I'm working on some really cool things in 3D and AI. So all of these are connected to each other and built on top of each other.
It says it right there on your website, a Renaissance woman in the 21st century. Not kidding. I think it's totally fascinating. When I went to Harvey Mudd College myself, so although often mistaken for Harvard Med. Mudd, they would say Harvard Med?
Yeah.
Like, no, different thing entirely. But
the education there was very diverse. You would take a semester of like ridiculously accelerated mechanical materials, computer, electronic, any sort of engineering. Plus, so 1/3 in major, 1/3 general sciences, so biology, physics, chemistry. Probably.
Sorry, I don't.
Uh-oh. That's an Amazon product talking to us. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah.
So, and then 1/3 of humanities, right? So philosophy and economics. And so very diverse. And the take home was, how can you apply some philosophy to some of your chemistry or anything like that, right? I think even though we didn't agree with it at the time because we were always working and ridiculous amounts of homework, but I think we were instilled fairly early with this notion that like, you don't have to take all of your classes in one field and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And so you certainly have this diverse application of your background, and which I think is interesting, and which I think a lot of people overlook the potential to think outside the box, as the saying goes, right?
I agree. And even at Harvard, the graduate school is called GSAS, Graduate School of Science, of Art and Science. So is actually in education system is not differentiating the two. And I think that's very important. I had a different experience in my undergrad. That was back in Cambridge. And it was actually, I wouldn't say different, but we were just basically, we decided to go into science. And the degree I pursued was natural sciences. And I did my BA and master's there. It was all science classes. Like I picked chemistry, physics, math, and material science. And in the same track, there are students doing biology and geology, later on astronomy, etc. So you can see it's all STEM, but there's no art in it. It's not mandatory. Of course, you feel free. It's a wonderful environment. It got art and culture. The whole city is filled with history. So you get a sense of the artistic inspiration. Except you don't have to take classes in those tracks. And back then I was very focused in pursuing my physics education. It's only later on when I get into the industry and had a very diverse experience exploring new things, trying to combine science and art together through my fashion and wearable endeavor. It enlightened me to see that actually there's a possibility to pursue all these different interests at the same time.
Right. And I think that's sometimes lost on people. Like I said, I'm getting a degree if I go to college at all, which is something I want to touch on really briefly, in a moment. But yeah, if I go to college, I'm going to be this, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's a young person thing, right? As we get older, we're like, I can do other things. But I see it frequently, although, and I do want to so in my notes, which will be in the show notes that I publish, it says just a Harvard PhD, no biggie. It's important to have that inflection. I've learned that in my stand-up pursuits. It is a biggie. It is actually a substantial thing. I've found in my travels that anybody, and not to say that other schools and other people are not also smart, but almost without exception, I can't even think of any. Harvard and MIT and Harvey Mudd College, there's just smart people that come out of these. I don't know how they let me in, and I kind of wonder if it's. I actually have a link in the notes, and I sent you this link, but I don't know if you probably didn't have a chance to watch it. Malcolm Gladwell, author. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. He literally has a presentation at Google. He's said this many times that you should not go to Harvard. You should go to a lesser school. It'll be easier to get a degree. And I would say it should be hard to get a degree because it should represent, work and effort. But here's the question. And so yes, much respect. I think people should stay in school. I think you should pursue as much education as possible, formally or informally. So what I'm seeing though, here in Las Vegas, and it's become an American thing, like don't go to college. You don't need to go to college.
You can teach yourself. And my joke is always, yeah, that's what my doctor keeps telling me.
What happened?
Who needs to go to med school?
My computer started to not being able to handle this. I have to cut this part, I guess. Yeah. Okay, it's back now.
I can hear you. Yeah. Okay, a little dropout there. That happens. So yeah, there's a trend here in America. I don't know if it's true in Germany. We were talking earlier that Germany still has pretty good education, public education, socialized. But here there's this push to don't go to college. Just self-taught, learn on the internet, do whatever you want.
Well, yeah. I think the discussion really is about what the goal is, what's the purpose. And I will agree that getting a degree from Harvard shouldn't be the end goal. It really needs to be the process. And I ended up there because I wanted to pursue the best education there could ever be in physics. And I applied to all the top schools. And I was very lucky to be admitted into Harvard, and I did receive one of the best education there is. So I don't think that's something people should avoid if you can get into a good school to get the best education. I agree on the other part that we should always be continuously learning on the side and for ourselves, knowing what we are interested in and what we really want to do with our lives. If the school doesn't give you all of that, then get additional education elsewhere. So, sure. Yeah, I don't think there should be like you should or should not go to college or anything like that. It really is part of self-discovery and working hard to get to where you want to be. And on that, I actually think it should also be that what you want to provide to the society. What is the value you can provide? I have a very lifelong goal, which is to steer the application of technology for good and bring positive energy and intellectual value to the society. So it sounds very lofty and long-term, but that's my mission, and I do everything I can to do that.
Well, if everything were easy, everybody'd be doing it, I guess. But I mean, to your point, well, yeah,
if everyone could do that, that's actually would be a wonderful, better society.
That is ideally what Innovate for Vegas Foundation is all about, is local innovation and aiming at civic volunteerism, civic hacking. But your point, I think, is exactly what I was aiming for. So Malcolm Gladwell is, he's very prolific, written many books and whatnot. But his presentation is centered on the degree, getting a degree from Harvard versus getting a degree from some other school. But you said it exactly, or as I would agree, I would say the same thing, which is it's the education part, not the degree part. And so the education that you received was what you were looking for. There's a component which I think is overlooked by people who say you don't need to go to college, which is the culture, the surrounding. You're surrounded by other people who want something similar. So is this like a self-reinforcing community of learning and some challenge, right? So maybe some competitive kind of energizing of the whole process. And the admissions process is part of that. So I think there's an entire pipeline of creativity that comes from university or college. And it depends on a college that's right for the person involved, you or me or somebody else. Pick the right place for you. I didn't look at a degree, though. I was like, I would like to go to a school that's not the usual. And Harvey Mudd was definitely that. Sounds like Harvard was that as well.
Yeah, and it goes with everything. It's not just getting to a school. I think for us who have been working for a long time, we kind of put that behind. Is what we want to do next, and is how do we add value and bring good to the society, and what path do we take to do that? And it could be providing, building the product that people need. It could be making more discoveries in science and provide knowledge to the society. So we just have to find the platform that can allow us to do that. And it doesn't have to be like a really famous place, because everyone's kind of competing for that. But if you can find the perfect match for you, a platform that allows you to do what you love, you would get to the best of yourself. So, yeah.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. And so I think I think I don't know what they would call it. Well, you mean you graduated from Harvard, so there's commencement. Do you have commencement when you're getting your PhD? But certainly undergrad is commencement, which is literally your beginning. It's not the end; it's the beginning, right? So you're. I think people that that are pro education or education positive, I guess, they tend to be the ones who continue learning or don't view it as like, okay, I got my degree, I'm done. It's more of a, I've only just started. I mean, I read books constantly. I'm always reading ridiculous amounts. And I think now, I don't know how this applies to art. I think it might, but on the sciences side, I think my observations are, it basically comes down to people that are inclined to want to make it work, as in, I just want to make it work and be done. And then the people that say, I want to figure out how this works. So they can, advance a project or something. Software examples are the easiest, but, just make it work. Just fit the square peg in the round hole and be done, versus like, wait a minute, let's look at some geometry here. What's going on? So I think more education or more bent in that direction shows. I think it becomes very obvious. So, and those are the sorts of people that I hope. Go ahead.
This brings a very good point about AI right now, where everyone is kind of cheating with AI also.
I totally agree.
There's a end goal. We just use AI to do it, and we don't care how it is made. And people use it to do their homework and creating stuff for marketing. There are definitely lots of value for using AI. I use AI all the time. I actually use it to do a lot of tasks that I find boring and little things that I normally don't like to do. But I think there's a part about having AI in education system. This is actually a perfect time for having students learn how AI is built, instead of banning it and or having this very negative effect of students cheating with AI. This is actually part of a human nature problem, that sometimes people, because the end goal is just to get a degree or something or get a certain mark, they would cheat together. They may use AI to do their work without knowing how it is being generated. But actually, when I'm interacting with like automated chat systems and art systems, I actually can learn from it. I can see how they search for results and how they come up with the answers, and also how to build products on top of it. So you actually have to understand the architecture and the way AI works. And my general concern is that we don't want to get into a future where everyone just use what's provided without knowing what's the fundamental.
Sure.
So then
we had that
people would.
We had that with. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. People would not know how their world comes from, and they don't even understand why things work the way it is. I think that the opposite to that, and also opportunity that we need to take right now, is to educate everybody and have everybody understand how things are engineered, so we can do better things as a whole. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, so the COBOL situation in America is an example. During the pandemic year, the first year, I think, they in 2020. So they started, I think it was in Florida. They said, we want to send out benefits or some sort of financial aid to the population that was locked down. And their entire COBOL-based platform that was responsible for dealing or maintaining or administering the
funding, sending, collating and sending and whatnot, completely failed, and it couldn't keep up and whatnot. And they're like, nobody is around that knows how this thing works. It's just been running for 30 or 40 years and we have no idea. And if you think about it, anybody, and this goes back to what I said earlier, there are people today, literally today, who are self-taught or who have taken, your basic classwork on, web development and whatnot. They have no idea how computers work. They have no idea how virtual and physical memory work. They have no idea what is this icon thing I click on? It looks like it's a floppy disk. That's a classic. So there's just the history of, or as somebody said, why are we looking at the old things like email? Why don't we look at the new stuff? And I said, where do you think the new stuff came from? It's built on the old stuff. And so, yeah, eventually, if you rely on AI too much, you won't know. Like, I don't even write any. The big thing now is I don't write press releases. I don't write this. I don't write that. And I've jokingly said, well, geez, why should I write my resume? I'll just have AI write it, and then you can have it read it, and won't even worry about communication anymore. We'll just have the computers do it, and it'll be an interesting time. And I always go to my first of all, I owned a Volkswagen Bug when I was 16, so I don't know if I've said that correctly, but it was a car built to be worked on by the owner, which I did. So I learned exactly how cars work. Oh. I think that was a strong part of I can drive a standard transmission. Most Americans cannot because they've never had to and they never learned. Yeah. I can speed shift. I can drop an engine. I can adjust valve timings because I've done all these things, right? I don't need to do them today, but I know what they mean. And I use this example a lot, so I'll give a shout out to my mom. She's a certified kitchen designer. She designs kitchens and bathrooms and whatnot. She has never, as far as I'm aware, used CAD. And when she was a teenager, she used to design dresses. I don't know if that sounds interesting or familiar. She used to hand draw clothing, dresses and whatnot. Cool. She used to cut her patterns and, on the dining room table, sewing machine and all that. And today, when she's designing kitchens, she draws them by hand and she does full elevations and whatnot. So here's what the difference is, though. A CAD person will say, oh, let me go to my computer and use the CAD tools, right? And my mom will be in the client's kitchen and say, oh, let's just design it right here. And she'll whip out a design on a piece of paper on the countertop. And they're like, wow. So, because you know your tools, right?
This is actually what I deal with all the time with fashion design, that there seem to be two types of separated approaches, which I don't think there should be. Actually, if you have done the fundamentals, you learned the things in a manual way, you can increase your productivity and be more efficient by using electronic tools. Right. And they actually enforce each other. I came from there. I actually learned sewing all by myself, just with paper patterns and cutting manually and all that. But then I just felt like a lot of the things can be automated. Why am I wasting my time doing some of the manual work that actually can be done digitally? So I moved towards digital simulation. So now I can design clothes on the computer from 2D stitch up together into 3D, and you can right there visualize it and make a correction and change the pattern, whatever you like, in a matter of minutes. And it actually saves you so much time and waste that doesn't actually have to incur. If you think about, if you are a creator, you just like to do things by hand, you're an artist, fine, pursue that. But when it comes to actual producing clothes for more people, it needs to have all these digital tools to help you. So I actually, by building my own fashion brand, I work with manufacturers. There are very traditional ones that are very difficult to work with. And they do things that in a very old way. They can't even communicate with you just digitally through digital it's called tag pack, the way you draw out the pattern and have a sample. So I had to deal with a lot of traditional manufacturers in my early years with my brand, having to ship samples back and forth like 3 to 5 times, make a correction, and every time there's some problem, you have to spend so much money and time. It can just take you more than 9 months to even develop a new style.
Sure.
And to put that in the market, it would take even longer. And there are still people who do it this way. And it's actually shocking to find out that the fashion industry is one of the largest polluters in the world. And it produces 10% of global carbon footprint, and 30% of clothes are ever made, mass produced, and never sold. So they get sent to landfill and get incinerated. It generates all this waste and inventory that brands are accumulating, and they try to sell them every year based on every season they have to produce new things. This whole back and forth is just unbelievable. Like, I come from the engineering world. I design things in CAD. I make chips that using nanometer and micrometer size resolution that has all the very precision manufacturing layer of different materials. Like clothing, we have thousands of years of knowledge, and we still do things in such traditional and manual way, and then generating so much waste, both time and money and pollution. So that actually is not acceptable. So I actually think the whole industry needs to update into a more digitized and streamlined solution.
And even more true with food production, food delivery. But just to put an end on my mom's workflow, she'll draw by hand, but my mom has been using a cell phone since they were invented. She uses spreadsheets. She has a blog. My mom is also a podcaster. So she uses technology. All of her hand-drawn drawings can be converted into shop drawings and red lines and blue lines and everything that they need to produce things. And so she's managed to kind of merge the tech side of her entire process and interacting with the supply chain and the installation and the construction. So it's really interesting, and it just everything you do sounds very similar. Is that you understand the nuances of what you're doing, and when you automate them, you know what you're automating. And I think to the point about the chat GPTs and whatnot, it's when people start to say things like, I'm not sure what's going on there. I get the output. That's all I worry about. And then they don't know why things are being wasted, or why, this process is ridiculously inefficient. And nobody's even thinking about how much energy it takes to train models and to run, a billion parameter chat GPT LLM. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just will be very useful if people do understand how the system is built.
Yep.
I do like the fact that I think in a way it is enlightening people. It is to show how technology can change people's behavior, and how something so intelligent it will develop so fast, and it challenges human existence. So I think it does have a positive effect if humanity as a whole take it seriously and consider the consequences together.
That would be nice. So that's a nice segue to fashion in general. So we've talked about some of the bad parts, the waste and whatnot. But I think so. When I worked at Philips, I think I mentioned that we visited Eindhoven there, and at the Nat Lab in Eindhoven, which if I remember, it was the Natuurkundig Laboratorium. Maybe that's close. Mm-hmm. So that was their big research facility, and it is now today. It is actually a kind of an office park for like an incubator facility. So there's a lot of startups and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. But at the time, across the hallway from the group I was working in the flat display systems group, so LCD and related flat technologies for displays, there was a textiles lab, and so they had all manner of fabrics and the traditional sewing, the torso with clothing attached to it and pins and scissors and all your classic tools of the trade. And they were very early efforts to build wearables, right? And I think the interesting thing, and I have mentioned to you, and I'll say now, I've known a lot of people doing wearable tech. I think everybody knows Anouk, or they should. Anouk Whiprecht, which I'm sure I didn't say her name right. It's been a while. But she does some very cool things. There's a lot of people doing some cool things with sort of fashion forward. But I think the really interesting thing, which we kind of see with smartwatches, is when people say, oh, it doesn't have to be a glass rectangle. I can have my technology in a way that's comfortable, that's functional. So I think wearable tech will, maybe if we're lucky, we'll get away from the glass rectangle. But I think it's going to make much more practical and varied uses of things, and maybe even less wasteful. Maybe you'll have a specific configuration that works for you that's not, oh, we got to make the same thing for everybody, and you're only using 20%. So the rest is wasted.
That's why we started this contest. Anouk is also one of our judges. This is a collaboration between my fashion brand, Art by Physicists, and Hexter.io, and Ascard, which is our solar panel, solar film, actually, organic solar film company based in Germany that's been collaborating with my brand for the past couple years. We are allowing anyone to be creators. They can, through this contest, submit their ideas. They can propose some prototypes, and we help them bring their ideas into reality to actually manufacture them. We'll go all the way to market. We'll use Kickstarter as a way to get early signal and to basically let the market decide who the winners are, and is filling the gap for people with good ideas and having them become products, like having them actually build very creative products that do not exist in the market yet, and putting that out for consumers to even be inspired. Because the problem usually you get is creators, they have a lot of good ideas, and then they have this huge barrier to get things manufactured. And then consumers don't even know what they want until they see the thing in the market. So they have to go through all these hurdles with manufacturing just to make some physical things that they can put on shelf to show the consumer. Sometimes consumers don't want them. Sometimes you just people don't get to know about it, and there's not enough people buying them, and then the whole thing just fall apart. So what we are doing is to turn it around, to get very, very fast development and prototyping, and very fast to market, to have the orders, the consumer demand to drive production. So we flip that. And this is what I think most production needs to do, especially for fashion. I think actually like car manufacturing are already doing that, and there are other industries already do on demand. Fashion is together. So,
and I think the smartwatch thing, like I said, I think that was maybe, well, now we're kind of getting to the point where they've integrated the health and quantified self, and it's trendy. I will say, when I used to travel 80% of the time, I got a smartwatch. It was I cannot remember which one it was. It was many years ago. I literally got this watch so that when we would land at an airport in some other place, it would automatically sync to the time zone that my phone would pick up from so like, oh, my watch is correct. So I could look at the watch and see where my next flight was, what time. So to me, it was I just need a watch that is always correct, so I don't have to deal with it when I'm traveling. Completely practical. I don't need all the other stuff. So I think as more people start to realize that their own, it doesn't have to be the Apple or Google way. It doesn't have to be the Microsoft or Apple, Macintosh way, or it can be your way. And fashion has always been, yes, trendy, but also very personalized, right? So
it needs to be customized. So it has to have a mechanism that empowers people. And technology is all about empowering and getting people involved in creating something for themselves. So that's why we want to do this with a contest, and we have the industry involved and the judges. In addition, we have like Amy Double D, if you know her, she's also one of our judges, and we have Chelsea Klukas, who's the co-founder of Make Fashion and the founder of Lumen Couture. She also has her tech fashion line. So coming together, join forces, and showing the general public what they can do. And we make all the technology components available for people to innovate upon. So then they're not constrained with just a rectangle. They can really design anything.
Right. And I mean, anybody who's ever built their own computer, for example, and it's not something that most of the population does, but you can build the computer that you want, and it can be in different shapes and sizes. It doesn't have to be a Dell or a Mac. It can be, your own thing. We're not there with cell phones quite yet. The Aria project from Google got killed, but Project Aura, not Aria.
Mm-hmm.
That was a modular cell phone. But this notion of like constructing personalized technology that fits your function. Now the question is, do you think so? Wearables sounds more generic. Do you think fashion tech is more appealing?
There's definitely an audience for it. Yeah, there's an audience of people that are not part of those giant tech companies interested in, or they're missing that audience. But there is a market, and look at how big the fashion market is. It's $3 trillion.
Sure.
And there's a huge amount of people who are interested in fashion, and their fashion pursuit is not being satisfied by the tech giants. Right. And the tech giants don't have the knowledge and empathy or the guts to do such things. And it would leave to smaller companies to do experiments. And right. Maybe something will pick up, and then big companies will step in again. So that's usually how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably I would say a good example of where there's a mismatch is Google Glass, not goggles.
Mm-hmm.
Google Glass.
That's too early.
It was too early, but they also it came across as very nerdy, right?
It is.
So you're like, oh, yeah, and it looked kind of silly, so that was a problem. But the example, I always tell people there was a prototype where you could try out the Google Glass functionality on an Android phone. It was called Google Goggles. Now they've kind of turned it into Google Lens, so you can do image recognition and searching and whatnot. But at the time, it was essentially Google Glass on your phone, Google Goggles. So I showed this to people, and I said, I'm going to crinkle up this American money, and as everybody knows, American money is all the same size. It's all the same color. It's texturally different. So that means if you're vision impaired, you have to be very careful, or just get your money in $1 bills, right? So I crinkled up some money, and I took a picture of it with the goggles, and it recognized each of the bills. So if you think about it, this head-mounted camera system could basically be helping people that are vision impaired, either partially or fully, to operate in the world, right? And probably the same with hearing impaired, right? If you could have stereo mics that could give visual feedback, directionality and whatnot. So I think there was a lost opportunity because they made it into a fashion faux pas. Like, wearable nerds taking pictures in the bathroom, in the restroom. I don't know what the water closet, whatever the word is there. When it really was a pretty groundbreaking for people who actually needed it. So I think, to your point, I think it's how you couch it, right? If it's couched as this like, well, it's a nerdy product that isn't quite there. You look at electric vehicles, right? EVs. The old ones were very weird looking. Now they're trendy and cool looking, and Porsche, I don't know which one, but Tesla and all these, they're making electric vehicles look good, and maybe fashion will do that for wearable technology. So I think maybe the appeal will become more diverse. The interest might peak. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's about, you are hitting on the point that we need to solve real problems, not made up problems. So that means you need to find your early adopters who actually need such thing. And I think in the early stages with wearable tech is a lot of hype and is a lot of imagination too. There was actually not enough process that is scalable. So when we had these open source hardware, our imagination could go wild. We're like, all these components, we can mix and match them. We can make anything. And then the problem is, so what application and for which audience, and even if we have the perfect market for it, can we actually produce it? Can we repeatably make our prototypes into actual products that are scalable? And that takes years. And the reason I focus on a tech fashion brand is that there's no company that's gonna do that. And I want to serve a specific audience. And I have my fashion and art pursuit, and it's also a way for me to express my creativity. So I just started to do that as my own company. And the thing is, there were a lot of technical problems that were not being solved. How do you do electronics thin enough, soft enough, and light enough, and doesn't require lots of huge bulky battery? How do you wire manage things? All of these technical things, I spent the past few years solving them. So we actually got to the point that we can have flexible LED fabric with printed electronics on them, and solar panels that are thin film that's laminated onto fabrics or anything, that are actually making tech part of clothing. So it's not an additional gadget or anything. So there's both the technical issue that we had to solve, as well as getting the aesthetics and having a appeal, having a fashion sense to drive this forward.
What's coming to mind when you say that is, or when you've just described all this, is I used to work at Apple in the Newton group. Many people don't remember the Apple Newton. It was basically the precursor to the Palm Pilot and many other personal digital assistants, and then now the various phones. So in the Apple Newton group, the Newton Message Pad 100 that I was working on initially, the battery life was horrible. It was in minutes, and at the same time there was a handheld or a palm top. They called it the HP 100 LX or LX 100, I think, or 200, and it was a little folding clamshell with a keyboard and a little LCD screen, and battery life was weeks, and the general rule was that's the difference between a calculator company making this and a computer company making this. So similarly, when Google makes something wearable, it's going to be a Google-ish thing that they've made into a wearable. It's like, it's still nerdy. And but if you start from the fashion, or at least like some human-centric design, like what really will work, and you move. So I think that's a world of difference. And I think that's it, right? You basically have to go with function and form, but don't start with let's make a computer into a wearable. Let's make wearable tech. And one of my questions is, so what happens when we wrap ourselves in technology? And I guess the first step is to make sure that actually works, and it's not clamping a cell phone to your wrist, right? Silly things like that, right? It's real practical.
Yeah, that's part of it, user experience. But with given user experience, that the best you can get, it depends on the technology level, and you need to have an MVP that actually solve already someone's problems. So yeah, I think you mentioned like big companies, if you want to do something creative, you have to then try to launch your own product through an existing product. And that's difficult. That's actually sometimes really doesn't reach the right audience.
Sure. You have to convince people that, no, this is really a good idea. But then you look at practicality and real, functional need, and that's how you get Velcro, right? You get astronauts need to have this, and so we need to develop it and design it. And then it turns out, this is a really good idea. Would Google have developed Velcro? No, it would have been an application running on a cell phone that you had to use some sort of weird USB cable and a whatever, right? It'd be completely
Google centric. Like, here's what we have and we can adapt it. I think. I mean, so by taking the goal is to have usable fashion that's comfortable. You've already described this. That's very different from let's make a phone that people can wear, which is almost what they're.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, yeah, but I think it's chicken and egg, because also people don't know what they want until they see it, so they can't
absolutely.
directly answer you what they want.
Right.
So you have to just you have to build up empathy for a particular audience.
Absolutely.
What are they usually doing, and what are the things that are so painful in their life they don't even know a solution to,
Sure.
but they have to work around. But we're totally talking about functionality, but there's another thing that is beyond functionality is the aesthetics, and I think the branding. If we are too engineering minded, it sometimes is a blind spot.
Sure.
So,
well, that's why I said fashion versus wearable, right? So when you say fashion, you immediately conjure like, oh, it's going to look nice, it's going to be comfortable, it's going to be usable. Like, I will want to wear it. But if it's wearable, you've said, I have to have a battery pack and I have to plug it into my cell phone, or I have to have a Bluetooth thing and I have to pair my dress with my phone. Like, these are things that sound ridiculous.
yeah,
Because they are.
and there's also there's the customization that actually everyone wants. This is very different from the old times when mass production was just made possible and people didn't have a lot of material goods, and they will want to buy clothing. Now clothing is a commodity and it's a luxury satisfaction oftentimes, and people are actually needing something more to what they are given mass produced. So customization is a big thing. It's not just about the look, and it's also the fit, and it has to be something that's perfect for people. Our technological level is not there yet. So my brand has been focusing on using all kinds of technology, not just wearable tech, but having digitized manufacturing design processes to get to on-demand customization. So anyone can order something from my website to have them custom patterned for their body shapes. And also, so what I'm now focused on is on-demand mass customization. So as a small brand, we can do this one-on-one, but how do we scale that process? How do we help the entire industry to get to on-demand mass customization? That's what I'm working on from the technology standpoint.
That will be, like I said earlier, with building, you can build your own computer, you can kind of build your own laptop. These are archaic anachronisms at this point, but when you can, and as I mentioned earlier, my mom used to cut patterns on the dining room table and sew clothing and whatnot. When we reach the point where you can actually make your own devices like this that work for you, I think that'll be really interesting and sort of a reformation, a real renaissance of the way we use, because you can, I've made fun of it already, the glass rectangle, it's getting to be ridiculous. And I worked at Palm and I worked at Apple. Cell phones are cool, but they've stopped being new. Now they're just the same. I have the same phone you have. Everything's the same. It's not really what I want. The software's horrible. So I think as more people can, the fashion direction makes it personal. Fashion is a personal, your style. If you make that an element of your personal style, that's a very different view, I think. And I always tell people the user experience thing. If you think you're good at something, sit next to someone that's going to use the thing, whether it's clothing or food or software or hardware or whatever, and they will tell you if you're right. So when you can,
just
try this on.
how they are using them. Yeah, exactly. Without
and they'll tell
interfering.
you. Sure.
Yeah, and also, I think the most appealing part of this is to reduce the waste and pollution that's been generated from mass production. If we could make clothes only when someone wants it and needs it, that's not possible right now. But I think with the automation of the industry, the connected supply chain, digitized processes, that's possible. It's a long-term goal. It's a holy grail for the industry, but when we build a new business, that should be our goal, to really be environmentally mindful. And I don't think a business should even exist if they don't have a long-term positive impact on the society. Just about making money, that shouldn't be the case anymore.
And global supply chains are completely opaque to the casual consumer, but they're ridiculous. And so one article of clothing might come from 10 different countries in different parts of the world, and it's a ridiculous transportation, and not to mention geopolitical. And so, I mean, sort of autonomy for where just being able to have clothing should be something, a sovereign right.
If only we could have all the data we can see and have transparency in the process. I don't think sometimes it's funny to see posts about like made in America, so we need to move onshore and everything we shouldn't go to a different country to produce things. Sometimes it's actually quite extreme and not really backed by data. What I really want to see, if that actually is a solution, then if it makes sense, we have to prove it by showing how much energy does it solve, but does it save, and how much more efficient are we able to do it locally. And I think it is possible that if we can have a local network and only producing clothes in your nearest city, say, or province, could be, but we need calculation, we need clear scientific thinking in order to have the right solution. I think maybe it is not so much a bad thing if things are sourced from different places, if everything is tracked and transparent. If everyone could see where their clothes is being produced and where the raw material is created, and different countries do have different strengths. And if we work together globally, we can have a database of everything that people have visibility to. That's the ultimate societal, intellectual stage that maybe we will be able to get to.
Better living through data. Used to be better living through chemistry, but now it's data. I agree. And so the state of Nevada, especially Southern Nevada, for example, is a leader in the world in water conservation research and practice, because we have to be. Mm-hmm. And I think if that sort of thinking, if somebody at some point says, you know what, we can look at profit as the driver of where we source and where our supply chains, travel and where they go through and don't go through. But if you look at something a little bit deeper than just, the bottom line profit, right? What is the actual cost to the localities, and what's the impact on environment? And I think, so the more data you have, that's how you make decisions. If you have complete data, the old saying, some data is better than no data. And you're like, no, that's not true. That's exactly not true.
Like we need to have a different collection of data points, not just revenue.
Right.
The world runs on generating value and revenue. That's fine. That's a indicator, is a good metric, but there are other numbers that we can look into, and ultimately it's about people living happily. And how do you measure happiness?
Sure.
There are many different metrics, and if we just use money as a metric, some people do that, but I think there's way more.
There's a famously the late Tony Hsieh here in Las Vegas, Delivering Happiness. That we could do a couple more shows on that if you have some time down the road. But I agree. And utility function cannot just have a dollar sign in it. Totally. So we're coming up on the end of your time, which is unfortunate, but it is almost 4:30 in the morning my time, so maybe that's okay for me. But I do a couple of things I just want to make sure we get to. So I mentioned steam earlier. We were having a discussion here, then I definitely want to get to the hackathons and whatnot, because that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But STEAM, and the comment was made, it's science, technology, engineering, and math, and then they just add art as if that's a catch-all. And so the discussion was, is that really, that's it, just the A, and then you've covered all of the bases? And I'm kind of wondering, and so I said, does adding the A really make a difference? I don't know. It sounds good, but and you've already said you're integrating the art and the science, all the things you're interested in, you're able to put those together. I do something similar with all of my various experiences and my interests and all that. It's fun, actually, to be perfectly honest. I think it's kind of fun to say, like, oh, wait, I can try this idea because I know this and I know that, and I can read about that, and I can talk to that person. I can talk to an expert in Germany about fashion tech, and then I can do our hackathon project. So these are great things, and I'm wondering if are we really reaching the potential of tying these things together just by adding an A, or should we be doing more? And I said, what should we redefine a full stack developer? It should be a lot taller than.
Yeah, I think people's job opportunities needs to shift. Definitely need to offer people the career platform for people to pursue all these things, pursue their passion, what they love to do. The problem with so far we have to add an A in it is trying to culturally change the fact that there are certain career paths that are very rigid, but it makes you good living. So you can't do that. You can't do whatever you love. You have to do it as a hobby, or
Sure.
You have to feed yourself and your family, and you have to do something that you are not passionate about, but it keeps you working to live. And a lot of people's passion, their real pursuit is diminished that way.
True.
So,
well, also, I mean, and then the other side of that coin is that the world misses out, right? If you didn't know that, oh, I can take my creativity and combine it with my, my manufacturing task, or whatever you're doing, there's actually, like, how do I put together, I don't know if you're familiar with Reese's peanut butter cups, the commercial, but it was always the chocolate and the peanut butter, and they get smushed together, and then, oh, look, we have a new thing, right? It could be something where people don't necessarily know that they have the two ingredients. They just have to put them together, and they don't know that. And go ahead.
It goes back to education too.
Sure.
When we educate younger generations, and it's not deliberately artificially separating the fields. And I actually came across a lot of really young, brilliant people who have so many talents. They want to do different things, but the current industries are not structured that way. And they're very frustrated. There's a lot of creative work that they can apply in their day job, but it's not being valued. So I think it has to change through maybe our generation. Like, if I'm working very hard to build platforms to allow people with multiple interests to also excel, to have a way of living that they can do all these different things. And it actually requires, right now, as of our economic infrastructure now, you have to build a business that generates enough revenue, generates a platform to support more people to do it. So
when we formed, there was originally a Code for Vegas in 2014, and so we reformed Code for Vegas Foundation to try to enable local innovation and whatnot, and to stick with the old organization. And it was part of Code for America, and that's a different story for another time. But the response I was getting here, and again, the population, the younger population here, especially post-pandemic, tends to be a little bit self-taught, or they're well, anyway, Nevada education is not known for excellence. Someday we're driving that too. So they said, I'm not a coder, so I'm not welcome. And I said, no, who said that? And they said, well, I mean, it says Code for Vegas. I'm not a coder. So the name change to Innovate for Vegas was
by design was supposed to be more inclusive. And we literally, I call it two entrances to the same dining room. I have a picture of a fast food restaurant with two different, doorways. You can enter through the code for .vegas or the create for .vegas doorway, but you're going to end up working together because those two things are the same. They're the same, right? So create for Vegas means let's make user interfaces that work. Let's make product designs that work. Let's make things that are accessible. I don't even get me started on our transit system here, which is completely inaccessible. If you are vision impaired in any way, good luck. It's ridiculous. So one of our projects is open transit. We're going to try to tackle that and make a better user experience and better, useful information and whatnot based on interacting with the people that use the system, not on the company in Canada that writes the software and doesn't care. So I think including the human in the design and the process and being creative and technical and learning from each other, I think it's something I'm trying to drive. And it sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. At some point, it's about creating opportunities for other people, for more people. So maybe in our early stages about pursuing knowledge to improve ourselves, but later on is about helping more to do that.
Well, I think, and it sounds, I don't mean to minimize this, but I will often say when women feel like they're not included in the nerdy computer stuff, I always say, how is discounting half of your population's good ideas sustainable in any way? That's ridiculous, right? So, you don't belong in this because of some identity seems to be completely short-sighted is a kind way of saying it. But I think to group things so coarsely and ignorantly, I'm a coder, therefore I don't do anything creative, or vice versa, or any of the, these. It's like, hey, do you have a good idea? Do you want to try it? Let's try it. And I think that's the hackathon ethos is really like, all ideas welcome. Let's give it a try. Let's stay awake for a couple of days and do it, or however the format is. And that's what I'm trying to foment here is this, try it. Like I always say, our hackathons are a lot of dry erase board writing, right? Just writing ideas and how do they connect and how would we do this? Because I say projects don't stop. It's not like we end on Sunday and we're done. We have ongoing projects and we gather at least once a month and throw some ideas around and collaborate on some new ideas and whatnot. I would like to see more of that from non-coders. And so that's one of my challenges, to get more people to do things like our project that I'm going to try to submit for the contest that you and Hackster are doing.
Awesome.
And I've told people, I don't know if they might think this is not really fashion. It's really, but it'll be a practical learning experience. And
that's why we have 5 different prizes.
Oh no, but I mean,
we don't have one called most fashionable. We have most practical, most manufacturable, most creative, most wanted, voted by people. What's the last one? Most sustainable. So it doesn't limit anything.
Sure, but if I will call back to the Harvard PhD, are we going for the degree and the win, or are we going for the process and the learning experience? And we might actually end up with something that works regardless of a prize. And maybe it's something that we could, somehow we can, because really, I mean, I don't want to bring down the mood, but
the prize actually is not something, it is a way to go to market. The price, the way we structured it is that once you have a good idea that's feasible, we go all the way to the market. That's the ultimate reward.
Sure. Well, exactly. Yeah. So we have to be careful about defining what winning means. And winning for the case of the thing that I'm proposing is that people stop being tortured in our desert heat here because we try to address that. However that gets manifested in manufacturing or availability or who pays for what, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I didn't know we could do this, and we did, and look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the motivation, I hope, and that's one of the last questions will be the motivation for these things, and you answered it already with the education. So similarly, when you're developing these things, is it about the prize and the profit, or is it about making the change and making the world a little bit better, and seeing the look on someone's face, or the way that they've changed for the better, however you measure. Personally, I'm in the latter, but it sounds like you probably are also. Exactly. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I mentioned to you not during the show today that I would just keep talking about it every day to try to get some people on board, which I have been. There's a company here called Meow Wolf. They do immersive artistic. We have one in Vegas. I don't know if you were here when it was open a couple of years ago. I was speaking to one of the stand-up comedian open micers tonight, works there, and I said, "Do you know any of the designers there?" And he's like, "Yeah." I described what we're trying to do, and he's like, "That sounds awesome. I'm going to tell all of them."
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm regardless of whether we quote unquote win,
it's about the community working together to make a change.
Exactly.
Change how
I need a T-shirt that says that.
The industry's been working. Oh, don't make a T-shirt. Make something more fashionable. I always get angry when people say T-shirts.
I know. As I was saying that, I was like, "Oh, that's not going to go over well." Well, I mean, having the T-shirt is part of this expression, but no, you're right. I mean, it should be something that people are much more aware of that they can do, is to make a change.
Yeah.
We have too many. I always say we have too many Legos. If you're a Lego fan. You spread the Legos out on the table. We have tons and tons of Legos, and we just need people who are going to start plugging them together. Like, I'm just going to start building stuff. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and, make it accessible. It's about everyone getting involved.
And do you know? I know we're essentially out of time. Do you know Milk in New York? Is it Milk or Milk Studios? I can't remember. Milk.
Not sure.
They do. So they do a lot of branding, fashion, and other music and whatnot. When Intel was working with them, they literally tried to put together a fashion hackathon kit to enable people to have hackathons. So they had like a fashion in a box. I don't know. They were trying to assemble like how could we develop integrated technology into actual clothing, and this was going to be New York fashion designers, and they said, we can't even continue with this because the fashion design people just do not get it, and they do not want to get it. They're like, what are we designing, spacesuits or something? They just didn't want any part of it. So it sounds like we've come a long way, which is good. And I should introduce you to the Milk people if you want to. Angela Way. I mean, awesome. there could be something, but
we love to.
But yeah, first things first. We have until the 31st to do our submission, so that's first. Then after.
May 31st.
Yeah.
Then,
the 31st of May. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'll introduce you to Angela anytime you want. But
awesome. We have the kit from Enlighten that is actually created to help fashion designers to get it, because it doesn't require any coding and soldering, so people can just plug and play. And I think that's effort from the community side. This was made by also co-founder of Make Fashion, Shannon Hoover, to really solve the issue of communicating and educating fashion designers. And our solar power is basically any shape that you want. There's no limitation of you have to fit a rectangle in your clothes or anything. You can actually design anything and just draw out what shape you want the solar films to be, and we'll make that for you. Because we have the technology to actually free-form the solar films. That's incredible. So I do want to have a larger audience from beyond the maker community to understand this.
Yep. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was 8 years ago or so, I think, when Milk was trying to do this. And so since then, people like you have made this possible, probable at least. And yeah, I mean,
we can make a comeback.
It's the difference between having to build a car and the ability to, get a car, and then that elevates your the noise floor, right? Like, okay, I have the parts that you can build your own car, I should say. Not you can build a car.
you don't have to make all the parts to build a car, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm
makes sense.
So you are providing the parts that kind of bring people a little bit closer to, because so I will
modularize.
I know, and we're essentially out of time, but I will say when I worked at Philips, we were building display modules. And the notion was you can put LCDs in everything, and you can make a display and today it's true, right? You can put a display in your earbud case or your desktop, whatever. Or you can put it in your entire desk. You can put it in your keyboard. You can put it in your pocket, whatever. So display. And so I said, oh, so we integrate so they can differentiate. And they're like, we're using that. So you're enabling people to differentiate on their ideas by pre-integrating components, right? These all work together. Now, make your idea happen, right? Did I get that close? Am I
correct? Yes, exactly. Yep.
So hopefully our hackathons will start moving in more creative directions here. It's not everything is an application to write on your laptop, people. Let's be creative and think about your user, not about your user interface, like the people that actually use your stuff, and think about keeping people cool in the summer. So I know you got to go. So thank you so much for your time. It's 12:30 where the doctor is, and it is 4:30 in the morning here in Las Vegas. So I appreciate your time, and hopefully there will be a part 2. Hopefully we'll have another discussion sometime.
Thank you so much. This has been a fun conversation. Have a great day.
Likewise.
Thank you for the early morning.
I don't sleep a lot, but yeah. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And looking forward to next time, and looking forward to our submission on 31 May. So stay tuned for updates on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.